Hey there, and welcome to episode 72 of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast, where today I'm talking with the amazing Andria Singletary all about building a business that fits your current season of life. Andrea is a wife, mum of two, a visibility strategist for mum business owners, and the host of the Marketing Without Socials for Mums podcast. Her biggest passion is helping other mums increase their visibility and sell their offers without relying on social media through podcasting and collaborations so that they can stop feeling guilty for when and how they show up in their businesses and build a business that fits their current season of life. Join us as we chat all about how to create a business model that allows you to be present for your children while still growing your business, how to free yourself from relying on Instagram and all the other socials by harnessing the power of collaborations to amplify your visibility, how to streamline and simplify your business processes, ask for help, and find community support so that you don't hit burnout, and so much more. This was such a fun conversation that is packed with a treasure trove of tips for thriving in your business without compromising those precious family moments. Ready to discover how to create a business that fits effortlessly with whatever season you are currently in and grow your business the simple way without constantly needing to be on social media? Let's dive in. Welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur, the podcast for mums with an online business who are ready to take back their time, home, business, and self so they can restore the balance and thrive, both at home and at work, without feeling like they have to choose between the two. I'm your host, Sarah Dew, life and biz coach for mompreneurs. I'm also a mum, stepmom, wife, introvert, breast cancer survivor, and your mentor for making a change for the better. I've learned how to go from surviving to thriving and unapologetically create a business I love and the life I want for me and my family without worrying about what other people think. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Because being an unapologetic mompreneur doesn't mean that we're selfish or that we don't care about others. It simply means that we are not afraid to show up as our true, authentic selves, to step into our purpose, do what we know is right for ourselves and the ones we love, and take the steps we need to take to make our dream life and business a reality. Join me each week where I'll be sharing all of my best tips and strategies, plus the occasional dose of tough but gentle love to help you feel empowered, motivated, and confident to take action so that you can become the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. So, are you ready to unapologetically create a business and life you love? Let's do this. So, hey, Andrea, welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure. We were just chatting just before we jumped on and hit record that I just absolutely love your podcast. And so it's a real treat to have you on here. So super excited to be diving into everything that we're going to be talking about and very much about like building a business with the current season that you are in. And I know that you're the same with juggling, building a business with kids at home, but your kids are a lot younger than mine. My boy's a teenager now, so I'm really keen to hear like some of your tips, your strategies of what it's like for building a business with younger children. But before we dive into all of the stuff that I know that's going to be amazing that you're going to share with us, just in case anybody hasn't met you before, do you just want to share who you are, what you do, a bit about your family, what's brought you to where you are right now?
Yeah, so my name is Andria Singletary. A little bit about me. I'm a wife, a mom of two. My kids are 4 and 2, so the little ones, very busy. And as far as like what I do is I am a visibility strategist for moms. And so I really support my clients with one, increasing their visibility, but also generating leads and just growing their business without relying on social media. And so we do that through collaborations and podcasting. But I didn't start off in that space. I actually launched my business back in 2021, and my son was 1, and I was 12 weeks pregnant with my daughter. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to pursue this virtual assistant thing, see what the online space is about. And so I did that and really enjoyed it. It took off fairly quickly. I was literally doing all of the things, everything from web design to blog copywriting, social media management, general admin, like literally all over the place. And although, like I said, it was fun and I really enjoyed, working with a variety of clients, as I was reaching my due date with my daughter, I knew I had to do something different. I knew that life as it was going to look different, going from a mom of one to a mom of two. And literally, they're 2 years apart. So I was like, okay, I need something that's going to really work around, me and my family's schedule and support the life that we want to live. And so, probably a couple of months before I had my daughter, I decided to pursue podcast management. And I knew that I wouldn't need to be on like during normal business hours. I could, be editing podcasts up at 2 a.m. in the morning when my daughter needed to nurse or something like that. And so I found this course, did the course, literally completed the course probably about a week before I went into labor, and really, gave my clients a heads up that I would be pivoting my business and going through the whole process of giving them recommendations for VAs and stuff like that. And thankfully, I was able to transition one client over to podcast management because she had a podcast and everything. And I pursued that. And, as I started working with more clients in the podcasting space, one thing I really saw was that, they had these amazing podcasts, but they were this separate thing from their business. They weren't really leveraging it for their own visibility or their own marketing and everything. And so I really started working with my clients, looking at like what type of content they could create that is going to, one, attract those ideal listeners, attract those people who need their services, but also start that nurturing and conversion process and everything. And so that kind of became my focus for a bit, really just supporting clients with launching these podcasts for their business and really optimizing them in a way to support their business, to be this pivotal part of their business. And then towards the end of last year, had some life situations happen. My daughter, she had a seizure, and then a month later, we found out that my son was diagnosed with autism. And so it was like back to back things. And I realized again that I needed to pivot, I needed to shift so that way I was even more present for my kids and support them, with the things that they were experiencing and whatnot. And so going into 2024, I decided to shift gears and really step into more of like a coaching strategist role. And so it really, one, it allowed me to serve my community in a different way and really support them in the areas that they needed, but it also supported, my current season of life. It really took a lot of that pressure off of me, especially, doing a lot of the done for you work. It can be a lot, especially when you are the only one doing all of the things and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so now I am a visibility strategist. I have my membership, the Social Media Detox Club, and I'm actually going to be launching a new program in 2025, but really just supporting moms with simplifying their business, simplifying how they're showing up in their business, but it not impacting their overall growth and everything.
Oh my goodness, I love that. It's such a journey, and I think it's just amazing that you're just not afraid of digging into what fits your life right now and really embracing that season of life and adapting your business and tweaking and try and pivoting down and what works and what doesn't and what you're able to actually produce and get out there in the time that you've got with spending time with family, and particularly like the last few months that you'd had, like you said, with your daughter and everything else. And I think that's just incredible. And there's just so much pressure, isn't there, to be out there doing all the things, to be seen everywhere, to do everything, and to show up everywhere. But especially when we've got little ones, it's just we can't do that. And I just love the fact that you're embracing that season of life. And I know that that's something that you very much focus with your clients as well, isn't it? And so when we're talking about like embracing season of life, what does that actually mean? If we're thinking about where we're at in our businesses right now and what's working for us and what we have to, the capacity to take on, what does embracing the season of life mean if, if somebody's just coming across that sort of term?
Yeah, so I always look at it as, honoring your time and capacity. And I know, like, as moms, we tend to try to juggle all of the things and, make it happen. But doing that, we often meet burnout. We often, feel this stress and overwhelm and whatnot. And so, really being honest with yourself, looking at, okay, what time do I actually have available? Like, what can I realistically commit to each week? And one of the things we have to remember too is that each week is going to be something new. One week the kids are going to get sick, something is going to happen. And so, even taking into account those things that are completely out of our control. And so, that's why I say, really look at building your business in a way that fits your current season of life. Like, I know this season of life I'm in, my kids need me a lot. My daughter, she is like attached to me at the hip. She is a mommy's girl, wants to be everywhere I am and whatnot. And so I know that, I'm going to give her that attention. I'm going to spend that time with her. And so I have to look at, okay, well, what can I realistically commit to? What type of support do I have available and whatnot? And planning out my business that way. So that's like what I mean, instead of like trying to take on more and do more, but looking at, okay, one, what can I commit to? But also, what can I simplify? What are those things that I actually don't need to do right now? Like, what are those things that are just taking up time, but not actually moving the needle forward in my business? And so, looking at all of that, and again, just honoring your time and capacity, and then going about building your business that way.
Love it. That's brilliant. It's actually like turning it on its head, isn't it? Because we think we have to be out doing all the things and actually then trying to make family life fit around that and try and then find the time thinking that we should be doing everything in our business. But actually, I love that one of the reasons why I love your podcast so much and everything that you do is that you've got very much the same like mission sort of ethos as me, is that family is first, and what you have in your season of life around family and what matters and what stage you're at, your kids are at, and everything else, and then building your business around that. I love that. And that's quite often why we start our businesses in the first place, isn't it? Because we want to be at home with our kids. We want to have that time freedom and that flexibility freedom so that we're able to do that and spend that quality time with them, especially when they're younger. I mean, it's definitely easier for me now my kids are older, and my eldest, my stepson's 25 now, and he's off doing his thing, and he's got his own job, his own car, still lives with us, but he's self-sufficient. And my youngest is now 13. I mean, he was 6 when I first started my business, but I definitely didn't have to go through that early stage like what you've been with the kids, and like getting everything ready, knowing that your bubble was due and all of that stuff. So do you have any tips? Because I've talked a lot on my podcast about like the older stages and managing time when the kids are home, when they're able to look after themselves for like longer period of time. So how do you tackle your day? Have you got any tips for the ones that are listening that have got the younger kids, or the kids are just starting to get to that stage where they're like 2 or 3 and they're thinking maybe now's the time to starting a business? Have you got any tips for them of how to just really start building it up and getting going when their kiddos are that young, and finding time in the day to actually do some work as well?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is asking for help. So, um, I lean on my husband a lot. So for instance, with him, like when he gets home from work in the evenings, he will take care of all of the cares with the kids, like, brushing their teeth, bathing them, getting them down for the evening. And so I typically do my work in the evenings, and that's because I'm a night owl. That's how I operate. And so, but having that support where he literally steps in and takes over and I'm not responsible anymore, that helps so much. And then I also have like a day on the weekend where I will do like a few hours of work and get that uninterrupted time. And so I like to call those my CEO days. And so that, again, my husband steps in, he takes over with the kids, getting them all their meals throughout the day, making sure they're cared for and all of that. And I only have to worry about myself. So, one, asking for help, whether that is your spouse, whether that is, grandma, grandpa, whoever you have available to help you. And I know like some people, they live far away from family. So another option too is just within your community, like looking to connect with other moms who are trying to do the same thing as you. I have had a few clients who've done that where they, connected with other moms who are trying to start and grow a business. And so they will take turns watching kids, like they'll have a set day. And so somebody will take the first shift and then the other person will take the other half, and they're able to get a lot accomplished. So that's one option. Um, Other things that I do too is one of the things I don't like, I try not to work when the kids are up around or like I'm responsible for them. And the reason why is that you're going to get those constant interruptions. Mommy, I need this. Mommy, I want that. Mommy, I need to go to the bathroom. And so for you, it's going to be frustrating because you're stopping a task. And so just do away with that frustration. Don't try to work while the kids are up and active. Like if they are playing independently and they're content and everything, and you're able to do like a quick task, maybe it's just send an email or something like that. Fine. But like trying to like dive into a project that's going to take you at least 20, 30 minutes or longer, don't do that to yourself. That's just going to lead to frustration. So that, and then just simplifying your business as much as you can. So for me, I do not rely heavily on social media because the reality is that with social media, you have to be fairly active in order to see results. You have to post at a higher frequency. And I just don't have the capacity to do that. So I lean into other strategies like, podcasting, blogging, collaborations. And I do that because I see a higher return, but it doesn't require as much of my time. So, like, even with my podcast, I put out a new episode each week. Like, I have my whole process streamlined and everything. And so, even the whole production part doesn't take me a lot of time, but also it's long form content. And so that means people can find this content weeks, months, years after it's gone live and still get a lot of value out of it, still end up joining my email list, still end up, opting into my offers and different things like that. But that's putting out one piece of content each week versus showing up on socials 3 to 5 times a week. So I think really looking at what you can simplify in your business and not trying to be on all of the platforms, not trying to do all of the things, like even how you execute your offers. So for me, I don't do a lot of like Zoom calls with my clients because we're moms. It's kind of hard to show up on Zoom a lot. And so I leverage things like Voxer for like coaching, or for my membership, we have a very active Slack community. So those types of things where I can easily, respond to something on my phone versus, oh, I got to get all dressed up. I got to try to get the kids settled and hop on Zoom and stuff like that. So just really looking at, okay, what can you simplify in your business? What can you automate in your business? Like, things where you can get back more of your time, or you're not having to be so hands-on with it, like really looking at what you can do to simplify your business in that way.
That's such great advice. That's fantastic. And I know definitely the whole trying to be 3 or 4 times, if you're posting every day on socials compared to having one piece of long form content. And we know that, we post on Instagram and, if we're lucky in 24 hours, we get that's it and it's gone. But that long form content is always there. And I've definitely found, and the collaboration side of thing gives you so much more in return for such a lot less work, doesn't it? And that is something that And I love that you've got like the social media detox club, but it's just so freeing of kind of like that permission that it is okay to not be on Instagram. It is okay to not be posting every single day. And there are so many other ways that we can attract our ideal clients, attract our ideal audience, and grow our audience, get them onto our email list without having to be on all the socials, on all of the platforms and everything. But I love that you've adapted your business to suit where you are in your season of life as well. So, as busy mums, it's like you said, it's difficult for us to jump on Zoom calls and doing the Voxer because then it's quick and we can come back to it and we can respond, when we're doing a quick run around with the laundry or getting the kids in the buggy before we go on the park, we could just quickly reply. We don't have to then get dressed and ready for a Zoom call. So I think that's a really important point there that you made of actually we don't have to do everything in our business like the traditional way. We can ask ourselves, how can we adapt that to work for us and also what works for our clients as well? Because, for both of us, a lot of our clients are busy mums like us as well. So we know that equally what works for us is probably going to work for them as well. So that is such great advice. And I think the other really important point you made there as well of not being afraid to ask for help, because we can see, especially as mums, that we want to do it all and feel like we should be doing it all, and that asking for help is like a sign of weakness, but it's not at all, is it? It's a sign of strength. And I think that's brilliant that you mentioned about, getting out into the community, meeting fellow mums and finding another mum that's got another business and getting creative with like shifting and swapping shifts and sharing as well. So that's such great tips. Excellent. So when you're just thinking about, maybe let's diving into where you're talking about working what's best for you and tweaking to keep things simple and getting started on coming away from socials. What was some of your tips of like some of your favorite strategies? You mentioned a couple there of like where to get sort of started and diving into those. Do you think, what would you recommend for someone that's juggling mum life and trying to not be on all of the socials?
Yeah, so I always recommend starting with collaborations just because, like, hosting your own podcast, it is still a huge commitment, especially if you're doing it by yourself and if you're new to podcasting and everything. And so I recommend starting with collaborations like podcast guesting, speaking engagements, whether you're speaking at summits or something I've been doing more of is going into other people's memberships and leading guest trainings. And then also to bundle collaborations for like, growing your email list and everything. But each of those methods are so easy for moms. It doesn't require a lot for you. So like, for instance, me guesting on this podcast, I don't have to do any of the post production. All I have to do is promote it, once it goes live and everything. And so I was able to schedule it on a day and time that worked for me. So looking at like you literally can set it up in a way that supports your season of life. Even when it comes to a lot of the summits and everything, most of them are pre-recorded. So you can go and record it on your own time and everything. Even the bundle collaborations, yeah, you have to do some initial setup to get your stuff ready. But once the bundle is live, you just promote it to your email list and the copy is going to be provided to you by the host of the bundle. So again, it's not requiring a lot of your time or your energy, but it's still allowing you to show up. It's still allowing you to be visible. It's still allowing you to get in front of new audiences and get the people who, need what you have to offer, the people who resonate with your message, getting them into your world where you can connect with them more, build those relationships and eventually have them invest in working with you.
Excellent. So how would you say that somebody's thinking this is sounding great? Collaborations, Phoebe swaps. I'm not really sure where to start, what to do. What would you say sort of advice for, so I know that's what you take your clients to and you share in the social media detox club of trying to figure out which is the best kind of collaboration for them. How do they get started? What are your top tips for that?
Yeah, so I recommend, like, especially if you are completely new to collaborations, I recommend starting with podcast guesting. And the reason why is it's just you and the host usually talking and everything. And I've found that with podcast guesting, it's more like laid back, like you're just having a conversation and everything. But also, too, you can start growing your email list that way. So you can share about, a free resource that you have for the listeners and direct them that way. So that way you're starting to grow your email list. Because I know at times with like bundle collaborations and even speaking at summits, they require you to have like so many people on your email list already. So podcast guesting is kind of like one of those low barrier entry type of collaborations where they're not going to necessarily ask how many people you have on your email list. So you can start growing your email list that way. And then how you were talking about freebie swaps, you can reach out to, people in your network who serve a similar audience as you and say, hey, I have this free resource that I think would be great for your audience. Do you mind sharing it with them? And then as you start growing your email list, you can do the favor for them and share one of their resources with your email community and stuff. So kind of starting off smaller that way. And then as you get more comfortable with doing collaborations and again, you start to grow your email list some, you can branch out into other types of collaborations.
Brilliant. I love that you shared that it's like starting in and easing yourself in gently, especially if you're just starting out and not really sure and like dipping your toes in the water. I definitely agree, like podcasting and podcast guesting is a really good way of doing that and reaching just audience, being able to reach the audiences that you wouldn't necessarily be able to find you otherwise, isn't it? So I think that's really, really good. Let's stick with the podcast guesting. If they're just thinking that, okay, actually, let's give this a go, how would they go out and about? Do they just do some research on like Instagram, trying to find some podcasters, dig into their podcast that they like listening to? Is it worth having, do you suggest that they have some topics that they would have first and being strategic about it? What are your tips for diving into the podcasting side of it?
Yeah, so I recommend mapping out your signature topics first. And one of the resources that I have for the listeners is my masterclass on building a visibility strategy that fits your current season of life. And it walks you through my framework for mapping out these signature topics. So it's called the CSI framework. And basically, you're going to start with, keeping the customer journey in mind. You're going to start with the end in mind and you're going to, really be intentional. And so essentially what that looks like is, okay, when you're mapping out your signature topics, thinking about where do you ultimately want to lead these potential leads? Like, where do you want them to go? What do you ultimately want them to do? And it's going to be to opt into one of your offers. So really looking at your signature offers and breaking them down and looking at things, okay, who would be a good fit for this offer? Are there any pre-qualifications they need to have to be ready for this offer? What does the specific offer do for them? What problem does it solve? What transformation does it help bring about? And literally just pulling out those things, you can craft your signature topics. And so it's going to make it flow better. So as you're speaking on these things, you're going to naturally bring up your offer. You're going to connect the dots for the listeners. And then this is why I say bringing in that free resource, because that free resource should be the next step after they listen to the podcast interview, where it essentially is going to help them implement what you taught about in that interview. And then you get them on your email list, put them through that welcome sequence that reminds them about, hey, I have this offer where I can support you in this area further. I can give you more customized support or individualized support and everything. And so again, it kind of just makes it flow smoothly. And it, again, taking into consideration the customer journey, moving people along, getting them into your world and really helping them see how you have the answer to their problem. You can help them get to where they need to be and everything. So that's what the signature topics, like how you can map those out. And then as far as where to find these opportunities, one place would be to join the social media detox club. I find the opportunities for you, but also always reaching out to your network. I think sometimes we forget to like reach out to our connections and just letting them know, hey, I want to start guesting on podcasts, this is my ideal audience. These are the topics that I can speak on. Do you know of anyone who's looking for guests? So you can start with that. There's also a million Facebook groups where people are always looking for podcast guests. So you can go about it that way too. And then also searching like Apple, Spotify, but making sure you're really being intentional. So looking at, okay, if I guest on this podcast, is this going to get me in front of my ideal audience? Is this going to actually make sense for, my goals and what I'm trying to achieve and everything? And so you want to make sure you do that. So that way you're not just, going on this podcast tour, so to speak, and it's not leading anywhere. Your message isn't resonating with those listeners and everything. So I think if you have those pieces down, you will definitely be able to leverage podcast guesting and be able to go into it confidently. And also to just really be able to bring about a fresh perspective as far as like your area of expertise to these new audiences.
Fantastic. That's such great advice. I love that. And it's so important to be intentional. And I definitely made that mistake in the early days when I was going in for freebie swaps. The first few bundles that I signed up to participate in, I was just like, yeah, that sounds great. I want to get my stuff out there. But I wasn't intentional. And I was then just filling my list with people that, they wanted to snag the freebie, but weren't necessarily my ideal client. And it's only really the last 18 months that I've really honed in and got super intentional about mainly since starting the podcast, really, and getting super clear on my message, that I've really honed in on that. And I think that's such an important point, and knowing and starting with the end in mind of what you want them to do and what that journey is and working backwards. So that I think would really help people listening to then figure out what their signature topics are as well. That is amazing. Thank you so much for this. It's been so helpful, and I'm sure anybody is at whatever stage they're at with their kiddos, juggling life and business, bringing into all the tips you shared about getting out and leveraging more of the ones on behind the scenes, are the easier ways to bring collaborations in and freebie swaps and talking on podcasts rather than trying to be on social media all the time, and just embracing that season of life and giving ourselves a permission to just do what we need to for our businesses. Thank you so much. I know we're going to make sure that all of the links are in the show notes for your masterclass and for the social media detox club. If you're not a member of that yet and you're thinking about doing something like that, go and check it out, go and sign up for it. And yeah, is there any other, I've got one question I always like to ask all of my guests on the show, but before I do that, is there any one final piece of nugget, wisdom, advice you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would say just make sure you're showing yourself grace. As moms, we can be very hard on ourselves, and know that you're doing amazing. You're doing amazing with what you have available, with the support you have and everything. And so just show yourself grace and be easy on yourself.
Fantastic. I love that. And that leads perfectly into the question that I love to ask all of my guests. And that is, what does being an unapologetic mompreneur mean to you? And how are you showing up every day, both as a mum and as a boss of your business, unapologetically?
So being an unapologetic mompreneur means to me is doing business differently. So like we had talked about essentially throughout this episode, where as moms, we can't do all of the things. Like it doesn't make sense for us. And so a lot of the strategies that are thrown at us don't make sense for, our life, for, our main priorities, which is our family and everything. And so for me, that looks like I'm going to do the things that make sense for me and my family. I'm going to do the things that I can realistically commit to. I'm going to do the things that I actually enjoy. And so not being afraid to do that, not being afraid to do things differently from others and whatnot. So I would say that's what it means to me.
Wonderful, amazing. And I love it. It's just so freeing, and it's just like that, giving ourselves that permission, isn't it? It's just so important and key. Thank you so much, Andrea. This has been incredible. Do you want to just share briefly where everybody can find you, and so they can come and connect with you and say hi and go and check out all of the amazing things that you have to offer?
Yeah, so you can check out my podcast, Mama Turn Mompreneur, and then you can pretty much Google Mama Turn Mompreneur and you will find me, my website. That's my Instagram handle and all of that.
Brilliant. We will make sure that all of that is in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Andrea. I really appreciate it. And I know that the listeners are going to really enjoy this episode. It's been super helpful for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody. That is it for today's episode, and I will catch you very soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much for joining me for another installment of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to leave me a rating and a review so that other mompreneurs can find this podcast too. Here's to unapologetically becoming the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. I can't wait to chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.